This is Civil 3D, it's about time. And we're assuming that all the attendees here right now are using AutoCAD in order to produce their civil engineering drawings from field to finish. And we thought it would be a good idea to kind of go through and actually show some of you what civil can do as far as streamlining, hopefully streamlining your workflows and your capabilities with your current software situation. I will tell you that I did use AutoCAD, much like y'all have in a design situation. So I am aware of what you're trying to accomplish, but I've also used Civil in a design environment as well. So I am also familiar with that. So we're not going to do a bunch of PowerPoints. I don't really like PowerPoints, much like the rest of you. So we're going to go ahead and close that. And we're going to go right into Civil. And we're going to start right at the beginning. So what I've done here is I've just very simply opened up a brand new drawing file, okay, from my template file. And we're going to go with basically field to finish over the course of the next couple of minutes. I hope we'll get to see as much as we can. And hopefully you'll see some of the benefits that I think are really cool for Civil 3D. So with that, I'm going to start off by bringing in survey points. So we're all familiar with that. Crew goes out, shoots our existing situation, gets our topography, gets our utilities, etc. And then we're off to the races. Now, sometimes everything is very compartmentalized with engineering. Survey does survey, designers do designers, etc. Design. But just in case there is some folks out there, we're going to take a look and see what it takes to bring in some points. We'll generate a surface and contours. We'll do some labeling, which I think is the best part about Civil 3D. So let's get started. So I'm going to go through this. This is not something, it's going to seem fairly straightforward, I hope. Okay. We'll generate a site, we'll create an alignment, we'll do some profiles, we'll get as far as we can, like I said. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to save it as, and we'll just call this webinar for right now. Now, for time purposes, I have created additional files that I can jump to, but we're still going to do exactly what is necessary to go field to finish. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in those points. So it's typically going to be a regular text file or an ASCII file. You're going to have a point number, elevation, northing, easting descriptions. Hopefully we're all familiar with that. So we're going to bring in points from file, and we simply need to select it. So here's my field survey, okay? And we can take a look and see that, yes, this is a typical point file. They've gone out, they've shot points, they've got northing, they've got eastings, elevation, and they've got descriptions. Now, in this case, this project is in California, in Zone 6. It's actually quite an ugly site as far as topography goes, but we'll see that here in just a second. So I'm going to select my text file. The software says, yes, this is okay. It fits one of these file formats. It is a PNEZD or point, northing, easting, elevation, description. And I get a brief preview here just so I can see exactly what I want and what I have. Okay. Now, where are my points? Well, we need to zoom extents. Okay. So the points are brought in the proper location. And initially, you're just going to see the actual point locations, no point numbers, no Elevations, no descriptions. Okay. Civil 3D is style based. And by that, I mean that it utilizes what is called styles in order to display your 3D objects. So these points are now a 3D object. They have intelligence. Their location is intelligent, their elevation is intelligent, and their description is intelligent. Okay? So with that, we're able to give it a label. Now, in order to actually, in this point, give a label, you'll be asked to change the label style. So we'll go with the very common point number, elevation, and description. Okay. Now, these can be changed. This is the best part about a style is it's completely customizable. So you'll be able to create a style that will mimic what your standards are right now. Mine just happened to be, I like to use Arial for my labels. My existing ones, I believe, have a slight slant to them, and my proposed are straight up, so I can pretty easily see and dictate which is which. Okay, so that was pretty painless. We brought it in. We've got all of our shots here. We can also, for you survey folks out there, we can actually change the marker. Okay, for example, if I want to make this marker an actual cottonwood, there's a couple ways we could do it. The easiest way to show you is to go ahead and create a point group. So we're going to call the point group cottonwood, and I'm going to change the point or the marker style. Now there happens to be a tree in here already. This is just a simple AutoCAD block. The good thing about Civil 3D is it sits on top of AutoCAD. All of your AutoCAD knowledge, all of your drawing files, all of your blocks, etc., will come over seamlessly. Okay? So what I'd like to do is this. I'm going to change the style for cottonwoods. I would like a description only. I can literally manipulate these into whatever I want to display and plot. So I'm going to include in this point group the description. I'm going to include a wildcard so it grabs every single cottonwood tree. I'm going to move down to points list. It looks like there's maybe 11, 12 cottonwoods. We'll say okay. There's our symbol or our marker now, and it's actually showing just the description like we wanted. So in case you have fire hydrants, you can do the same kind of situation. You can do storm manholes. So any blocks that you utilize, you can create your point groups and mimic exactly what you have here when you go to create your either your survey, your alta, your boundary, whatever you use, or the base file for your design plans. Now from here we can generate contours. For time purposes, I'm going to grab every single point here. Typically I would not. I would only grab those that are affiliated with any type of ground, like the trail here or any ground shots. I wouldn't take any trees. But like I said, for time purposes, I'm going to include every single point. And we're going to create a surface to let us see exactly what's going on out here. Points are great, but contours really tell the tale. Okay, so want to create ground data and create a surface. It is literally a two-step process. The first step we need to do is actually name it, give it a style. How do we want to see it? In this case, I'm going to go with 1 in 5 contours and say okay. Now I said a 2-step process because the software doesn't know what we want to include. So we need to define it. Now, one thing I haven't told you yet is Civil 3D has what's called a tool space over here on the left side of my screen. This is our command center, okay? It groups our 3D objects in the proper locations. It allows us to see styles, okay? We have a survey tab that helps the survey crews bring in and follow along with their dates, etc. of their files. And we also have a toolbox, which is where we can generate reports based on our 3D objects. So there's a lot going on over here. The main 2 tabs are the prospector for your objects, settings for your style, okay? So I want to create the surface, which means I want to define it. And I happen to have a point group. There's one called all points. You bring in 1 point, it creates a point group called all points. And every single point that comes in, whether they are existing or proposed, will be placed in that point group. So we're going to utilize that for my surface. Just like that, it generates my contours. Okay. Now there's a couple of things here we would need to clean up a little bit, which is no problem. The nice part about this is now that it is a 3D object, we can open it up in the object viewer and turn it up on itself, and we can give it different excuse me, visual styles. So we can take a look at it as realistic or conceptual. Okay, so you can see we've got a high point here, and then we've got a valley going through. You have another plateau type situation, high point here, and then another valley there. Now you can simply use your mouse and spin around, or you can use your view cube, okay? But you can get a better and general idea of exactly what's going on, all right? The better your points are, the better your surface. And there's our actual roadway there. So that looks pretty good. Don't know really what's going on here. That might be something we'd want to go check out. Might be turnouts, but we can take a look at that. So here's my surface, okay? Easy enough. Now, what I want to do and what you can do is once you have your information in, you can actually set the location and bring in an aerial behind our information. So our units and zone, it's important that you find out what unit category you're in. We are in California. Now, there are probably hundreds of coordinate systems. Each country has several, some have one. California, for example, has all of these coordinate systems. There's probably several hundred within Civil 3D with your initial installation. I happen to know that this is an NAD 83, zone 6, okay? It will set your units, it sets your available coordinate system, and we'll say okay. Now the nice part about this is it allows you to see if you're in the right location, because what we've done is we've activated a geolocation tab. And I want to take a look at my map. So I'm going to turn on Bing Maps behind, hopefully, my information here, okay? I usually go with roadway first just because it's faster and it's a little bit easier to find your location if you need to, but this looks pretty good. I do know that this is correct. Mission Avenue is off. They've done some construction out there. But once you get to this point, go ahead and change to aerial. And now you can see where my site is. Okay, so if you like, you can zoom in and find out where's my storm manhole, is my sanitary manhole in that location. Now, there's a caveat here. Bing Maps should be used only for conceptual design. They are terrible. The resolution is terrible. They don't update them like Google. Okay, so please do not use them for a design type situation. Okay, when Google and Autodesk parted ways back in, I believe, 2012, Bing stepped in, or Microsoft stepped in, and decided to partner with Autodesk, and they thought that was great. But most folks, if you ask them, will think that this is garbage, and use them only for conceptual purposes, please. Okay. So with that, there is our surface. There is our aerial behind it. We can check to see, yes, we're in the right location. The survey is pretty good. What about labels? Labels, I think, are some of the best things within Civil 3D, because now I want to label my surface. So we literally have a simple, uses textiles just like AutoCAD. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to add labels. Now you're going to see dialog boxes a lot. So the dialog box is either going to prompt us for information, or it's going to provide information for us. They take a little bit to get used to, but far less than some other competitor software out there. So I want to label a surface, and my label type is going to be contour multiple. I want to label more than one at one time. So I'm simply going to add, and in this case, I can draw a straight line just like that and label my surface. Okay. Now the nice part about Civil is it's customizable, and in this case, I can grip edit and move those to a location that might work better. Because we've gone in before, we've labeled contours, right? And we might have even masked behind them. But when it comes time to start actually getting into design, at some point in time, some label's going to be in the wrong location, and we're going to have to fix it. Okay. Now we do have one other option that's pretty nice. You can add contours at an interval. You can still utilize your straight line. However, it's less flexible. It will ask you for initial location and then an interval between actual labels. I will say 250 feet. So anywhere where your initial contour label line crossed, it will measure 250 feet, and you can very easily label your entire surface. Okay. You can also, with your labels, you can label your surface, spot elevations, dictated by styles. Okay, select a point, spot elevation, quick, easy. Okay, now once you have one in here, you can simply use your simple AutoCAD copy command and move it and copy it, and it will automatically read the surface wherever you are and it will be correct and accurate. So you don't have to come back to your dialog box every single time in order to complete your labels. You can also do slopes. And there are a couple of different styles that you can utilize here. You do it by percent. You can do it by actual slope style, not grading, grading. Okay. So it's dropping down at 130 to 1. Again, these are customizable, color, the layer, etc. So once we get this cleaned up, and I'm pretty okay with what we have here, I have cleaned it up a little bit. We're in good shape. So now it's time to start laying out our alignments. Okay, this is actually part of a master community. There's some parks in here, there's a school site, things of that nature. So what I've actually done here is I've already gone through and created polylines. So like I said, I like to keep everything as AutoCAD oriented as possible. So these were simply conceptual polylines that were put in by whoever the designer was, the architect, whomever. But I need to turn them into something that I can use in civil. Now, alignments do not have elevation. You can use a 3D polyline in order to create an alignment. However, after the alignment is created, the software drops or flattens it to 0 because it's only used as a linear type path. Okay. So with alignments, most of the action is on our ribbon. Hopefully by now you're familiar with the ribbon. It's been around a while. It's not going to go anywhere. I would recommend trying to get used to it as best as you can. Okay. So with that, I like to create my objects, or excuse me, my Civil 3D objects from actual polylines, lines, arcs, circles, etc. So I like to create from objects. Now I'm simply going to select this polyline here and enter. It tells me the direction. That's important because it's going to station this for me. Okay, so we want to go west to east in this case, so that is accurate. We can change the direction if we need to by simply clicking reverse. If I'm okay with that, I'm going to hit enter. Here's the dialog boxes again. It's asking for information. In this case, this is Jeffries Ranch Road. Okay. What type is this? This is important because this is an organizational tool. Once we get into the prospector, this is telling the software where to keep it and hold it for us. You have other options here, okay? But this is our center line. We can set the stationing. We can set styles. We can tell it what we want to label. In this case, I only want major stations, minor stations, and my geometry points. Now, if you've utilized tangents only without curves, you can add them here. And you can erase your existing entities. Okay. Just like that. Okay. There's my alignment. Easy enough, right? Pretty straightforward. Well, what happens if there's any change to your alignment? For example, what if it's lengthened? The software dynamically changes the labels. Civil 3D labels are dynamic. Okay? They will update and adjust accordingly. If your information is correct when you lay it out, your labels will be correct, and they will be correct throughout the project. No more worrying about whether or not this station is correctly labeled. No more worrying about whether or not a rim is properly labeled, etc. Civil 3D labels. Okay, so we would go ahead and we would actually create our other alignments here. I've got Mission Avenue, Rand Boulevard. I've got a couple of odd ones out here. We've got Ascent Place. The process is the same. So once you get that process down, you're going to be able to do any kind of alignment that you want. Okay. Now, alignments don't have to be used for roadways. They can be used for anything that is linear. Center line of ditch, river, creek, top of bank. Okay. If it's linear, you can assign it an alignment. Send place. We'll do the same thing. Okay. Now, we're seeing a warning symbol here. Right now, this alignment is actually taking a look at and comparing itself to the design criteria in the AASHTO book. Okay. So it's telling me, if I hover over it, that that tangency is violated, which means this is not a valid curve. Okay. I can go in, I can go back, dictate my new alignment, revise it, however, okay, and we can go ahead and fix our alignment. Now, you could simply go through, go from the center and go perpendicular, and this is kind of the old AutoCAD functionality here. Which again, that's probably why it's not letting me hit that. So easy enough, okay? But we could fix this. Okay, we've got geometry editors. So in this case, we can change the radius. That's a 50.3. That's really bizarre. We'll unlock it. Change that to 50. We can update it. Still got a problem there, but that's okay. We know that there's an issue, so we can come back and fix it. It's not a problem. Now, you will see layout tools. You do not have to create your objects from other objects, lines, arcs, 3D polylines, etc. You do have layout tools, okay? And you can see that you have a lot of editing information here to get to the point you need to be for your project. All right. Now with that, labels again. We already found out that they're dynamic as far as stationing and labels for our geometry. But we can also go ahead and add labels based on our alignment. We can label our segments. Bearing, distance, curve information. Perfect. Nice. These will also update. These can be moved along the alignment. Okay. You can move them to make them readable. We can also place a station offset if we need to label a location. So for example, okay, maybe we've got a house that sits here and we need to place stationing and offsets. Now the software says, I don't know what alignment, you've got more than one. You simply select it, click what you'd like to label. There we go. Now this is a pretty ugly style. Okay, cleans up a little bit when you drag it. When you drag a label, you will get the leader, you'll get an arrowhead. Okay, so that corner is a station 1 plus 14, 17, offset 35, 24, and you get the drift here. Okay, now there are two different types. You can actually set this so it will never change, and that's a fixed point. But typically, if the alignment were to change, we would want to see an update here. Okay, so there's our label. So I'm going to go ahead and make a edit here. We'll change the beginning point. We should see the label should have stayed there, but that's okay. We can move it, and you can see when I move it, see the numbers are changing. Endpoint. Okay, dynamic. Now, once we have a surface and once we have our alignments, we can create profiles. Now, I've already created my alignments in this drawing. My surface already exists. And I've actually gone in and created my existing ground profiles for 3 of the 4 roads. Okay. These are all style based. The profile grade line is a style. The profile grid is a style. Okay. But we can label it however we would like. This is Mission Avenue, Station 0 to 256410. Try to do as much labeling as you can with the software. Okay, so what I'd like to do is this. I don't have one for Rand Boulevard, which is running south to north in this case here. So I'm going to create a profile. My dialog box opens and the software sees all of the alignments I have in this file. Now, Rand Boulevard happens to be one that hasn't been created yet. And I can select a surface. My alignment goes from 0 plus 0 to 1584. I don't have to use all of that. If you need to, you can create very small profiles. For example, if you need to just see 12 plus 00, you can to the end. You can select the location in the drawing. Okay. Now this one I already actually created and got rid of. I erased it so that we could recreate it again. But it's going to populate Rand Boulevard. It's going to put it together with our existing surface, and it's going to go ahead and generate our profile. So once we select Draw in Profile View, it walks us through a wizard. Okay, we can make simple changes. We can tell it station range if we want to. We can set it to automatic, which is probably a good thing, at least at the beginning, so we can see it. Okay, display options, easy enough. This is our bands are at the bottom for our existing ground and our final grade. Okay. If we had more than one profile, we could hatch it, making it easier for whomever is going to look at the plans. We're going to create profile view. I'm going to select the beginning location here at the center point because I know it's going to fit. Okay. The software goes through, creates the grid, labels in this case, the existing ground. We do not have a proposed ground yet. But once we do, we'll be able to tell the software to relabel, and it will automatically update and relabel there. Okay, so what we'll do here is we're going to generate a proposed profile. We will use the profile creation tools. It prompts us for the grid. Okay, again, a dialog box. I told you these were going to be prevalent. Again, with styles. How do we want to take a look at this? Once we're good, here's our layout tools. I'm going to set my vertical curves, and I can set them based on a K value or a length. Okay, so we'll change our crests to 200, our sags to 150, or you can change the K value. So if you have a municipality that says we need a minimum of, here's where you can set it. Okay. We want to draw our proposed profile with those vertical curves. We're going to pick that endpoint. Whew, this is ugly. Now, all I'm going to try to do here is try to balance this a little bit, right? So we're just going to utilize what I have, and we'll tie it back to the endpoint here. And once I have that complete, my labels are generated, right? My elevations are set. Labels my grade breaks. Okay. Pretty straightforward there. Done deal. Same situation applies here. Any changes to our profile, change our label. For example, I can grip edit now, and I can make this vertical much larger. Boom, labels change. Okay, I can change my my slopes or my grades in and out. Okay, I can also use a geometry editor and see it in a grid view, which is my personal preference. I just like to see all of it. You know, maybe the grade out is, if you're one of these folks like I am, you want to try to get it as close to even numbers as possible. That's just me, and then let everything else ride. Everything's going to update automatically. Okay. So there's our profiles. So we've done our surface. We brought in our points. We've created the surface. We've labeled the surface. We've created our alignments and labeled our alignments. And we've created our profiles. We've also created a proposed profile. We're 40 minutes in. Okay. 40 minutes in, I barely have time to create anything in AutoCAD, to be honest with you. There's a lot more work involved. We're letting the software take over, do the calculations in the background, update our labels. Man, this is good. Life is awesome. Okay. So these are our roadways. Okay, we're going to utilize our alignments in this case for our center line of road. So I want to generate a typical section for Jeffrey's Ranch and for Ascent Place. We're going to create a corridor. Okay, a corridor is a 3D model made up of assemblies. Assemblies, to you and me, are typical sections. Okay, same terminology or same output, different terminology. Each assembly is made up of smaller parts called subassemblies. These subassemblies are found in your tool palette. You open up that tool palette. Here it is, installed with your software. These are not special. They're not from anywhere that you can't get to. You install the software, you install the subassemblies. Okay, you've got basic, you've got all sorts of different lanes, shoulders, medians, curbs, daylights to existing. You have generic, so you can link your subassembly parts to link slope to surface. I can tell it to go at 3% or 3:1 to existing. I have conditionals, so if you're trying to create more than one cut fill, there was a situation where we were grading a landfill and there were terraces. So each terrace had its own conditionals. Okay, you can do trenches for pipes. You can do retaining walls. You can do rehab for your lanes, your roadways. You can even do bridges and rail. Okay. So what I've done here already is I've created this set of subassemblies to create Jeffries Ranch Road. So we're going to do the same thing here real quick for Ascent Place, and literally it is that quick. Once you figure out what your typical section looks like, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Now the first thing I did was I closed my tool palette. Don't want to do that. Okay. So I'm going to create Ascent Place. Jeffries Ranch Road has 15-foot lanes here, curb and gutter, boulevard sidewalk. Probably not the case for Ascent Place. It is a residential. It is this small location here, which we saw earlier. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add my lane, and you'll notice my properties palette opened. If it is not open, software opens it for you. Everything is about efficiency. Okay, now I want to place the subassembly and finish my assembly here. Now it prompts you for a marker. This is a marker. Okay, this is the center line, marker style. If I select it, okay, group assembly group name. Great. So it says it's going to be placed on the left-hand side, and this is going to be a 12-foot lane. Okay, and the assembly name, we'll say -1. Okay, now if I want the same information on the right-hand side, I can do that as well. We'll just skip this aspect here. Okay, now if you'll look, in this case, I have 2 pavement courses, a base and a sub-base. These can be customized. If I select my subassembly and I select subassembly properties, I take a look at my parameters. Okay, so right now this is a super elevated, and it's showing my potential pivot points. Those are not guardrails. But what I really want to point out is this: subassembly help. Software recognizes you might not be familiar with these. So I'm going to let you in on a secret. Here we go. Okay, it's going to tell you and give you a very brief description. It's going to let you know your parameters. Oh, that's awesome. Well, side is pretty straightforward. Width is straightforward. Pavement depth, sub base, slope direction, inside code. Here's a description. Tells you the defaults. tells you whether or not it's numeric, okay, or left or right. So in this case, they should be 12 feet, which they are, 2% dropping away. I don't want 2 pavement courses. We'll just set that as 0. When we're finished, we'll say okay, and you can see that that pavement course is gone. We'll do the same here. Customizable. It's awesome. Okay, sub-base depth is 0. No pivots. Okay. Curb and gutter time. Urban curb and gutter general. As you can see, we've got several types. Okay. It's going to place it on the right-hand side. If we need to make any changes, we can do that here in our properties tool palette. Again, you're looking for a marker. These are now markers. And it will place it. We'll just say okay. It's always going to want, unless it prompts you otherwise, the top marker. There's our curb. Let's finish this up. We'll put in an urban sidewalk. The inside boulevard is 0. Since it's residential, we'll say 4 foot. And nothing outside on the back. Whoops. Fat finger there, 0, 4. Perfect. Drop it in. Drop it in. There we go. Okay. Pretty straightforward so far. Here's our lanes. They're 12 feet. We've gotten rid of the pavement course. I'm ready. Time to create my corridor. Now your corridor is made up of 3 objects that we've already created. An alignment, a profile, and an assembly. Again, dialog box. This is a set place. Okay. So we are going to use a set place. Our profile, yes. Actually, I don't know if that's correct or not. So in this case, I'm not sure. It's going to allow me to pick it from the drawing. Set place is down here. There's my proposed. Okay. Okay. And it has gone through and it has generated my corridor. We can take a look at this in our object viewer. Take a look at it realistically. We'll actually show you. Here's our lanes. Here's our curb. There's our sidewalk. Okay. If I want to take a look at Ascent and Jeffrey's Ranch, I'll probably want to use my grips and pull this back. And it's going to pull it back. If you use the grips, it's going to utilize the alignment and it's going to pull it back. And we can start to get an idea of what our road's going to look like. Okay. The software also does intersections. That takes a little bit more time than what we have. Okay. So that might be a future webinar. In fact, it probably should be. All right. So with that, we've got a corridor. Let's take a look at some pipes. Okay. Real quick, like a bunny. Let's see here. I don't know where it went to. Might have erased it by accident. There it is. All right. Oh, before I go, 2 things. Let's finish this off. Ascent place. Okay. Need to tie this into existing. I'm going to use side slope, cut ditch. We'll just accept everything for what we have. Okay, but you can change it so that it's 3-to-1, 4-to-1, whatever you want to utilize. Okay, so there it is. It says, hey, I now have a surface tie. My corridor is out of date. It is ascent place. I need to take a look at the properties. My parameters for ascent place are out of date here. I happen to know that it's the target because I added the tie back to the surface. I'm going to select to change the target. I'm going to set them all. The target surface will be existing. We'll say okay. Once we get out of here, we'll see that it ties in. Rebuild. There we go. Okay. You can see where it cuts. You can see where it fills. And now we've got what we need, and we can go ahead and create a surface. Boom. There's our roadway surface. Okay. All right. Lastly, let's throw in some pipes. Okay. So what I've done is I've already gone through here and I have placed my polyline. If you utilize a polyline in order to create a pipe network, each vertice becomes a structure. Okay. So with that, we're going to generate a sanitary sewer here. Pipe network from object. This is the direction that I want. It's following along with my stationing. Perfect. This will be sanitary. We have parts lists included in the software. This is sanitary. You see, we also have a storm. Okay. So we're going to create an 8-inch PVC pipe. There are other sizes available. The structure is going to be a manhole, a 4-foot manhole. I'm going to tell, I don't have a surface created for Jeffrey's Ranch, so I'm not going to give it a surface name. But if I did, it would automatically calculate the rim. Okay. And you know what? My alignment is going to be Jeffrey's Ranch. We're going to erase. And now if this was a 3D polyline, I could use the vertex elevations for either the outside top of pipe, my crown, my center line, my invert, or my outside bottom. This is a 2D. We won't be utilizing those. We'll say okay. Right. Not quite sure where my pipe is at. That's okay. Maybe I didn't set the pipe. I did set the pipe. It's all right. Again, we can take a look at object viewer. Okay. Nice part about this is you can create them in plan view, but you can edit them in plan view or profile. And we could go into a little bit more, but we are getting out of time here. Don't know where my pipes went to, but that's okay. We can always come back to network tools. We'll select this and we want to edit the network. you would like to go ahead and draw pipes only. Something wrong with my style. I'll bet you cash money. Okay, but we're running out of time. All right. So with that, modify pipe network. We'll tie it all together with this. We're going to draw the pipes in profile view, or at least our manholes. Jeffrey's Ranch is over here. There it is. Select the view. I'm going to go ahead and pop that in right there. There's my manholes. Okay. They are not set to a surface, so we're going to get some really ugly situations here. So let's tie them to a surface. Create a surface very quickly. Jeffrey's Ranch. Okay, there we go. We're going to come over our profile to edit. Take a look at structure properties. Reference surface. And it's dropping us way down, but that's okay. You'll see. Okay, there we are. Best part about this is labels, always labels. This is the pipe network. I'm going to label the entire network in plan view. We can select what style. In this case, I'm going to go length, description, and slope. We're going to go data. We'll say okay. Boom. There's our structure. And this will automatically change. Okay, so right now my invert out, structure properties, my invert outs. Let's take that up to about 145. Now if I want to here, I can select both pipes coming in and out. I can right click, I can match crowns, I can match center lines, I can match inverts. Okay, and there we go. Now, because it's been updated there, we should see, there it is right there. It goes below because I have a sump, half a foot. And in a little less than an hour, we've gone ahead and created some pipes, alignments, profiles, because it's all about time.